really great. And I think Peter summed it up really great with about connecting and really building bridges, which sets us up perfectly for the next panel, which is the Bridges panel. So Shauna Noah, who's the Bridges program coordinator, is going to moderate. And then we want to thank New Seasons and Market of Choice, who are the sponsors as well. And so we'll hear a little bit from them today. Bridges is an amazing program and just super excited for this panel. Thanks, Shauna.
Hello, beautiful humans. How's everybody's Built Festival going right now? All right, let's make sure we have microphones. Perfect. All right, you guys. Well, I am so excited to introduce you to, do we need one more? There's 3 total. I'll share. Okay. Introduce you to Bridges by Built Oregon. Again, my name is Shauna Noah O'Connor, and I'm the program coordinator for Bridges. Bridges is a program that's part of Built Oregon that connects founders that identify as BIPOC or from underrepresented communities to retailers and various other channels to get themselves to market. So we have the celebrities of the Built Bridges retail. So I'm going to go ahead and have everybody go down the line and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lori Hunter, and I have the privilege of running the local finds program for New Seasons Market.
My name is Joyce Attar, and I am the president of World Foods, Barbara World Foods, and Yahala Restaurant.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Boyle, and I'm the Chief Merchandising Officer for Market of Choice, and also help shepherd the local program at our company.
Wonderful. Let's give a round of applause, right? All right. So my first question to you all is, how did you become a part of the Bridges program?
My first?
Yeah.
The year was 2016. I had actually just moved back after a 1-year gig in New York City and was reconnecting with some folks and reached out to Chris Bailey, and Chris said, there's this guy you got to meet who is really making pretty big shifts in the local food system. So had the opportunity not far from here to sit down with Mitch, and like many of us, spent 2 hours talking about how we would change the world, or at least change Oregon. We talked about solutions and challenges and opportunities that local makers face, and how retailers like the 3 of us can help. And after that, Mitch invited me to the Mercado, where I met Shay, who's somewhere here in the back, I think. And Chris and Shay and Mitch and I sat down for a full day of meeting vendors. Many of them did not speak English, so they had interpreters. Many of them came from communities where there was no grocery store like us. And so it gave me a chance to kind of see into this whole new world of not just opportunity in finding really cool products, but in terms of helping foster communities who maybe didn't have access. So it was a pretty cool day. I think we saw 10 or so people. And obviously at the end, Mitch said, let's do this again. So that's how I met Mitch and became exposed to the program.
I think Mitch was just hanging out at the office one day, and we were like, who's this guy? No kidding. He had a meeting with us. So he showed up and explained his vision for Built Oregon, and we thought that really aligned with what we were doing at New Seasons at the time. So here we are today.
I love it. Big Mitch energy. How about you, Joyce?
So I had previously been working with, or currently still working with John as part of the Good Food Foundation, and John had recommended Chris Bailey reach out to me, and I think it was 2020, 2021, right around the time of the pandemic, and we were kind of getting lost in all of the do's and don'ts of those 2 years, and so I said yes and got the opportunity to kind of connect back to doing what we do and what we love to do, which is talking to makers and producers, and it kind of reignited our passion for the industry.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, the cornerstone of this program is to serve BIPOC and underrepresented communities. So tell me a little bit, like on a personal level, why does this matter for you?
When we bring in or look at global flavors, BIPOC flavors, local makers, we get to offer our customers a diverse product mix. If we were sourcing from the same distributor, we would have a homogeneous product offering. And by really embracing the uniqueness of global flavors and local makers, we have a great product for our customers.
So this one's a little bit personal. Our company was started by my family, Lebanese immigrants, and at the time, Portland was a little bit of a food desert from an ethnic food perspective, and they really saw it as an opportunity to bring a lot of the foods that are unique to our culture and other underrepresented cultures to Portland, and that was kind of the basis of our company. And over the last 2 decades has really grown to represent a lot of international makers, local makers, specifically in the BIPOC and ethnic space.
One of the things that I talk a lot about with our buying team is being part of Oregon kind of gives us it's an obligation for us to interact and to carry any vendor from any community. Like Lori said, what I think is very unique about BIPOC makers, women makers, it's a whole different perspective, right? I mean, they're drawing on their cultural experiences, they're drawing on a family recipe. There's a really cool story typically there. And so that really, I think, resonates with customers today. The other thing I would say about the importance of local is local really fuels community. So whether you're in Portland Metro or you're Southern Oregon or Warm Springs or anything, that ability through Bridges to bring forward those makers from those communities, like I said earlier, where we may not even have a store there, but with the work we can do with Bridges is bring those makers kind of forward and get the audience with the three of us. The other thing I would just share is like this, it's not an easy lift, right? I mean, we carry 5,000 local products roughly, a little bit more during the summer months. It's hard sometimes to find the shelf space, but we're committed to finding that and to keeping those diverse products on the market because, like Lori said, it gives a choice that maybe they wouldn't have had before. So,
one other thing is the Bridges program creates accessibility to our stores too, which has really been helpful for the producers, which might not know how to get to the three of us. So, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, speaking of getting to the three of you, we probably have a lot of companies in here who have products who would love the chance to talk with you. So, what do you want a company to know? Who's pitching to you?
I think the biggest thing is we all know, we have years of experience in the industry, we all know the makers have passion, right? They've been told by a friend or family member that you've got to bottle this and sell it at a store, people are gonna love it. The one big piece of advice I would give to any maker, especially a maker who's just starting, is to go slow. There is no rush, this is not a race, it's not even a marathon, it's a journey you're starting on, right? So you want to first recognize that you can bottle passion, but you're running a business. And so you really need to come prepared whenever you're pitching your products to any buyer, is kind of know what your business plan looks like. Know about you're obviously going to know about your story. You need to check all the boxes. I have a UPC, I have the required label, nutritional fact, et cetera, et cetera. But more than that is the journey after you get to shelf is the most important part. There's a lot of great incubators, a lot of great groups, Bridges, who bring the makers forward to a buyer to make that decision. But once the product is on shelf, you're in a sea of 35,000 other items that exist in the store or whatever category you might be in. So how does your product differentiate itself? I really want to understand how you can sell better than the item next to you. And then you also need to make sure you have a promotional plan that's going to support your product after it makes it to the shelf, a social media plan that's going to keep you in front of consumers and tell your story, a demo plan so you're out there getting in front of customers, letting them taste your unique cultural products. That's what I want to hear from a maker when I'm getting ready to kind of make that decision.
Yeah, just riffing off of what John said, it's this idea of retail readiness. You have a great recipe, great product. You've dialed in your cost and your price, but you make it to the shelf, and that's a very exciting time both for the retailer and for the maker. But that is really where the work starts. And I think we find that the makers that are the most successful really understand that when you make it to the shelf, you have to start hustling. You can check all the boxes for the demos and the promotional plans, make sure you're following through with that, but do you understand your retailer? Do you know where you are on your shelf? do you know which products you're sitting next to? How does your price stand against your competitors? Do you engage with the staff? There's a really successful kombucha company that would come into our stores, buy their product right off of our shelves, and then give it back to our staff so our staff can try it and talk about it and just, fall in love with it. And when a customer asks for a recommendation, they're going to point to the one they know. So, really hustling once you've finally made it on the shelf and really starting to work then.
Because without the hustle, without the marketing plan, the promotional strategy, we probably have to get out of business with you at some point. And that's something that we don't want to do, and you probably don't want to have happen as well. But the sales have to be there, and you have to do the work. And it's not the buyer, it's not John and Joyce and myself that's deciding, it's the customers that are deciding they're not buying your product. It's our job to provide a product for our customers that they will buy, because we are a business, to John's point. So that's the tough part about the business. That's why the hustle's necessary.
Yes, definitely with the hustle. Well, speaking of the hustle, there is a buy local landscape that is where everybody's kind of hustling. So tell me a little bit about how you've seen it change, and what do you think it's going to look like for the future?
We've seen a significant product slowdown. I think we've all agreed on that when we've met previous to this. There was a time in the local finds program we'd see 15 to 20 products every month that we were bringing in, and now if that happens quarterly, it's a lot. I don't know if you want to speak to the cost of goods or doing business.
Well, I think one of the things that's changed is obviously the economy has impacted the customer's willingness to maybe buy something that they haven't tried before, or a flavor of something they haven't tried before. So the economy's driving a little bit different pattern in that regard. But I still believe that customers want to buy products of any kind that they resonate with, that they connect with, and that's why that social media and that marketing piece is so expensive. The customer is willing to dish out the money to buy the local product. The other interesting thing that we're seeing, and I think this is good, is a lot of categories have become heavily saturated. So we need to give some categories time to breathe, for us to be able to run our numbers and see what's selling and what's not selling. And so we can't, Lori was talking earlier, we just can't add another, no offense to tea makers in the building, but we can't add another tea because a tea is going to have to get off the shelf, right? So there's a finite amount of shelf space that we have inside the store. So we make the guarantee to every local maker that we accept that you'll get a year at shelf. So during that year, that's where we begin to work together, right, to make you as successful as possible. We've taken down a lot of barriers so you can be as successful as possible, but that's where we need you to execute on that marketing side and to get the velocity up, because there is somebody else knocking on that door wanting to present to us at the next Bridges meeting or something. So,
I think we live in a really rich part of the country from an agricultural, entrepreneurial, and while we have seen new products entering, that process slowing down, it is a very competitive market. It's very competitive to have a local product in this part of the country. And one of the things that I think will be kind of the future is, what are the other differentiating factors of the product besides local, and how will kind of companies move through that competitive market so they can get their tea on the shelf.
Yeah, that sounds great. So talk to me a little bit about how you see your stores being an integral part of the local food systems.
So our company, Lori, New Seasons and Market of Choice, was founded in Oregon, specifically Portland. And so in addition to having that international food and specialty and BIPOC focus, we spent a lot of time in our early years and continue today to really focus on small local makers. We, being small, when we say this all the time, we can do whatever we want, and we really try to use our small footprint to give folks that don't have maybe the production capabilities to be in a larger space, and pay a lot of attention to kind of the small local producers. Being entrepreneurs ourselves, how do we kind of make room for other entrepreneurs in the city and continue to kind of carve our niche out against especially big box stores here?
Also, with our local fines program, and like your programs as well, and the foundations of Built, we recognize that there is people behind the product. It's not manufactured in some factory in the Midwest and then trucked in. There is one person making the jam, bottling the jam, putting the labels on the jam, driving the jam to the store, and then we want them to come in and sell the jam for us too. So it's a heavy lift, like John was saying, but we support that and we recognize it and we celebrate all of the bakers here.
Yeah, I would add that, I mean, not to speak for these these folks, but I think we all three of us have the coolest job, right? I mean, we get to help make people successful, and that's what kind of fuels me, and I think fuels our buyers as well. So many of you here are probably part of or have heard about our Mojo program. It works a lot like local fines. You know, we have 12 stores around the state, and so we created the Mojo program to handle all the logistics for free to move products. If you're a Portland maker, you can drop at a Belmont location and our trucks will get the product to the Bend store, or the Ashland store, or wherever. So again, it's part of bringing that community to life and amplifying it. It would be super easy just to add products to the Portland stores and keep the Bend makers only in Bend. But the beauty of the Mojo program is it really kind of helps with that logistics. And that's one of those barriers that we try to take away, so you don't have to worry about logistics. You don't have to necessarily worry about jumping into a distributor right away, so you can learn the business of selling. The other thing that I think is important is, you know, this is a very, very unique ecosystem. I've had the opportunity to work across the country in different markets. I've never seen anything like this. You have 3 retailers who don't really, you know, we're competitors, right, a little bit. But our ultimate goal is making the local ecosystem work, right? It's that important to the 3 of us to sit up here, even as competitors, to have bridges, other incubator programs. But the strength of all of this is all of you. It's you guys are the community that works, and that does not exist anywhere else I've ever seen. Sharing ideas, talking about obstacles you've overcome, all of that is part of this kind of really unique system that we've all created. So I mean, I just applaud everybody, the new makers, the makers who've been on the show for a long time. You guys really help support each other, and that adds to our success, quite honestly. So. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think everybody else does too, right? We've been talking a lot about companies, been talking a lot about the stores, but let's talk a little bit about the shoppers. So where do you see shopper preferences and trends going as they relate to your business?
So I think our customers are very educated, and they are, you know, they care about what they're buying. We find that people will still spend a little bit more to get quality products, local products, whatever those attributes are that matter to them. But we are also finding that shoppers are becoming more price sensitive, like anything else. You know, as prices continue to rise and people feel a little bit more pinched in certain areas, having kind of that price sensitivity has become something we're a little bit more aware of.
We're seeing customers seeking out organic products still. That's been the ethos of our business. Low sugar products still matter. Gluten-free still has a place, and quite recently the non-alcoholic beverage category is seeing enormous growth for us. So we've even dedicated a whole end cap to it, and it's just doing so great. So.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I think a couple of trends that we're seeing. Customers are shopping for lifestyle, so it's food as health, if you will. We're seeing a lot of activity around regenerative adaptogens and regenerative products. We're seeing, like Lori said, gluten-free, plant-based is taking off. I think we're through our first wave of that, and now we're kind of seeing what will stick, and we're seeing some new brands. I think a lot of people jumped in on that, and that's kind of the way that a lot of these new category trends happen. There's a real big peak, a bunch of people jumping in the space, and then it's got to kind of settle down a little bit. So.
All right. Well, we went through our questions really quickly, you all. So I want to, take a moment and acknowledge that in this room we have quite a lot of companies, and you spoke specifically about what they can do to be retail ready. But I would love to give you all the opportunity to just go down the line, kind of speak about what is your advice for these companies as they're going on their journey?
I think there needs to be awareness of the competition. I always recommend makers to put their product on the shelf at New Seasons Market, take a picture of it, and then go home and assess it. How does it stand out? How does it fit on the shelf? And who are the competitions? And how can you compete on price?
I think just unlocking the passion for what you do and really making sure that that resonates to your customer, to the retailer. You know, oftentimes we find that the companies that do super well, they have a good story and they're talking about it. People are able to connect with that. I'm sure everyone can think of a brand they like, and maybe there's a story or a maker that they met behind that brand. And so really doing it for the passion, for kind of the right reasons, that will inherently just unlock another level of success.
I think I would repeat what I said a little bit earlier about moving slow, but also moving with thought, you know, in a thoughtful way. Back when I was at New Seasons before joining Market of Choice, we penciled what we called the full potential promise. I think it probably still exists there. It exists at Market of Choice now too. And that full potential promise is about partnering with the maker to understand where they're at today. And then it's okay to go slow. Start in one store. Start at New Seasons, learn the business. There's a lot of things that you might not know about, right? That are just kind of the common industry requirements and the industry tools. You know, how do I receive? How do I generate an invoice? All of that. So moving slow, getting to know the business. The other thing I would recommend to any new maker is stay committed to the reason that you created your brand and your products. I see time and time again that somebody will launch, and within 6 months they're trying to launch 3 more flavors, and then they're trying to get into another category. And all that is gonna do is reduce your capacity to focus on your core business. So always ask yourself, why did I get into this business? What do I hope to achieve? Obviously profitably, make your business profitable, but also stay committed to that, right? Write out that mission statement, write out those goals that you have for your new brand. Think about how you're gonna incubate that brand yourself. Document all of that so you can refer to that, because you're gonna be tempted. You're gonna be tempted by an incubator coach to make a change, maybe. You're gonna be tempted by just seeing another product or just an idea, because we're all creative innovators, and an idea will pop in your head in the middle of the night. But I would really encourage you to go back to those documents you created at some point in time early on in your business. I saw Michael Pan with Pan's Mushroom Jerky back there. I'm sure he has this, right? Full commitment to 4 or 5 flavors of mushroom-based jerky products and what attributes they want to have. And you stay on point, and eventually that success will begin to get momentum. So don't worry so much in the first 6 months that you have to be tweaking and changing. That's not commitment, that's reaction and chaos. So just stay committed to your brand.
I'll add, I think that's a really good point, John. And on the same token, stay committed, but especially if you're in the Bridges program, be open to feedback as well from the retailers, and really try to understand how that side of the business works, and how your product fits into the big picture and the business end of the retailer as well. So if you're in the Bridges program, use our team to really give you that advice. And if not, maybe it's a store manager or a mentor or somebody else in the industry that can, make sure that you don't, grow yourself out of business, or, Exactly.
Also, not all products are destined for grocery store shelves too. Some are really better direct-to-consumer, e-commerce, farmers markets. Going into grocery is expensive. And also, in the startup space, know your end game. Know where you want to be. Do you want national distribution? Do you just want to be in Oregon and Washington? Do you just want to be in Portland? Know that, and then build the roadmap to that end game. So many people start businesses not knowing where they want to go, and that's what creates some of that chaos too, because they grow quickly and then they don't grow, and then it's too fast. And so really figure out where you want to be and how you see your brand growing.
I love that. That's super helpful information. Well, let's talk a little bit about best practices in the store. Do you have any examples of people that really kind of blew you away once they got in the shelves? You don't have to name names. You can be very general, but kind of talk a little bit about, what is it that they did that really stood out to you?
I mean, I'll go back to what I said earlier. It's that hustle. It's there's several companies like this, but again, connecting with our team, making sure that they are part of the fabric of the store. We have vendors that are just as much customers. They know the staff by name. They really just integrate well into our space, and so they know when there needs to be an order made. They're just existing within our fabric, and that's not reasonable to do to every retail location you're at. But just having a presence that's just beyond the product that's sitting on the shelf is super super impactful.
Yeah, without naming names, we have 500 products that are shipping through the Mojo program right now, so it's kind of hard to pick a favorite. But I think the ingredients for success are really what does happen when you're in the stores. So you're not just demoing to hand stuff out; you're demoing to get feedback. So really successful brands are talking to staff. They're looking at their brand sitting in the category, and how does that label pop, or how does the size of the jar work next to it. That's part of that full potential promise. I love it when brands aren't quite sure, and we'll say, well, come on in. We'll set up a demo station and let people try a bunch of flavors, and maybe you'll get enough consumer feedback real time to land on 3 or 4 flavors that will really work for your business. So I guess it's, again, just part of that kind of thoughtful approach.
Yeah, people are going to try things once, especially when they meet the producer, connect to the story. The key is to get on their shopping list so they're buying it weekly. You want them to come in and buy it all the time. When they're out of something, they're like, we're out of it, we need to go get more of it. That's velocity. That's how you drive trial and sales. And to do that, you need to have a promotional plan, whether it's through price reduction, where you put it on sale. I think there's a disconnect that people think the retailers take the hit on the sale. It's actually coming from the producers. So you need to figure out possibly, like, I'm going to promote for a month quarterly. And during that time when my product is on sale, I'm going to hit the stores, I'm going to do demos, and customers are going to try it. They're going to hear my brand story. It's going to be on sale, and then boom, it goes in their basket. That's how you create a customer. And you have to keep doing it over and over again until all of a sudden people can't live without your product.
Oh my gosh, you hit on something so important. Let's talk about demos, shall we? Because part of a new element of Bridges is that we're working to help promote demos. So tell us why demos are important.
I think what Lori said is right on. Customers want to meet the maker, and like I said earlier, they want to resonate with the brand and somehow connect to that brand, either through a product attribute or a story or a mission alignment or something like that. You are the real face of the brand. So if you can be out there sampling, that's always a win. You're always going to sell. Success to us looks like 6 units per store per week. That's kind of how we define success of local brands. You can sell 2 or 3 cases, 4 cases sometimes in an active demo. And you're educating, and people are getting to try maybe a flavor they haven't tried before if you have different SKUs. So I think the demo is hugely important, especially when you're first launching.
I was at the New Seasons in Happy Valley, I want to say 15 years ago, and I was walking down the beer aisle. I worked in beer at the time, and Heater Allen was there. He was demoing his Pilsner that I had never had before, and he just gave me a brief story of how he makes it. It was like I make it in my garage story, and I tried it, and I was obsessed. And I was obsessed because I connected with the maker, and I was able to just, when I drank that beer, really understand the story behind it. And, I don't really remember if it tasted much better than a lot of other beer. It didn't really matter. But just knowing that there was somebody who cared about what he did, making that product, made me kind of a customer for a while.
Yeah, I think with the demos, you're not only connecting to the customers, but to the staff, which is really important. I think every staff person at New Seasons knows Nikki from Hot Mamas, because she is a staff favorite. Her product's great. They caretake for her because she built that relationship with them. And that's very important. Oh, hey.
Oh, I love the call out of the local. Well, that is absolutely fantastic, y'all. Do you have any final notes that you want to share with any of the makers?
Yeah, I'll say that, everyone that makes product and sells product, this is what makes Portland so unique. And, while we are seeing a slowdown, I hope that it's just temporary, because this is kind of the fabric of Portland, the Pacific Northwest. And just, continue doing what you're doing, continue kind of make with that drive, and really, show your great recipes and package your product and keep selling it.
We haven't talked a lot about distribution, so just some quick thoughts on that. Maybe a little bit of John's advice is, Lori mentioned your goal for your brand may be someday to be, a big regional brand or a national brand, or some in here today. But just really make sure you do the due diligence when you're thinking about going to a distributor of a larger size. I won't name them because I buy from some of them, but I would strongly recommend that you leverage programs like the local fines or the Mojo program, or working with smaller suppliers or distributors in the market. There's some really good ones that you can work with. That teaches you the business of distribution, because it is different, right? And so when you start thinking of the really big guys, the national, or now I think most of them are even global in some ways, there's all kinds of hidden fees and contract language where you may not get paid until XYZ happens, or you have to participate in a ad program, and that comes at a cost to you. There's oftentimes so many fees before you sell your first case of product that it can tend to overwhelm. And I've seen some really, really strong brands that I thought were gonna be just knock it out of the park successful, and they get into this system and they didn't do the diligence of like reviewing the distribution agreement language, and they got caught on these, people mortgaging their house and really tough stories. Thankfully, a couple brands I'm thinking of pulled through that, and they're super successful and even global today. But I would just encourage everybody, again, like I said at the beginning, you're running a business, right? So before you just make big decisions, I really recommend think through them and ask the question, how is this partnership with my distributor gonna benefit my brand and my company?
And be sure that distribution fee is built into your cost of goods. A lot of times people don't figure that out, and then when they're ready to pivot and move into distribution, it's a 20% flat fee pretty much, and that comes off your side of it. So if you haven't built that in, you're gonna move into distribution, and then your cost is gonna go up, and that'll be passed on to the customer eventually. And sometimes you can lose people with that change.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This was incredibly helpful and educational. Why don't we go ahead and give them a round of applause, everyone? Now, if you're thinking to yourself, my goodness, I want to be a part of Bridges, you have come at a wonderful time, because we have a new Bridges retail cohort that is opening up pretty soon. So if that is of interest to you, please come find me. I am running around here all day. Don't talk to them. We're arranging for you to talk to them. Come talk to me. I'd love to get you involved in the program. Once again, thank you, Lori, Joyce, John. This has been just so educational and so wonderful for our brands, and we just appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Shauna.